Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight Howard trailblazers and move makers. Today, we have a really special guest, really awesome guest. This woman exemplifies that black girl magic, that hashtag that we often see. Howard University graduate, minor in African American Studies. She's a part of that infamous Delta line from 2013.
Yes.
Alpha chapter, right? Delta Sigma Theta.
Mm-hmm.
All the way from Portland, Oregon. Man, I think you might be the only black person I've ever met from Portland, Oregon. But I know they make Nikes out there, so that's what's up.
Yep.
She's a beauty editor at Marie Claire, beauty, health, wellness, celebrity coverage. Her whole thing is empowering women. But she's very well credentialed. Oprah Magazine, Essence, InStyle, Birdie Beauty. You know, her mission, and this I'm reading right off her bio, her mission is to inspire and shift the narrative of mainstream media when it comes to diversity in the beauty industry. So welcome, Maya Alum. Maya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is
an
honor. I am such a proud Howard alum.
Man, so happy to have you on here and to talk about a topic that is, I don't know what adjective to put on it, but it's a much needed topic, a very important topic. I think a lot of women struggle with that concept of what beauty is.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll kick it off with, what is your definition of beauty, Maya? And what do you think, I guess, America or the world's definition of beauty is?
Ooh, that's a rich question. My definition of beauty stems from what my mother always told me when I was a very young little girl. And she always said, Maya, it's so important to be beautiful on the inside and out. So I really cherish inner beauty. And I think when you nurture yourself inwards, it just radiates outwardly. So beauty to me is kindness, joy, love. That is the most important. Those are the most important aspects of beauty in every sense of the word. I think in terms of how the world views beauty, I mean, so many different perspectives and lenses, and there's so many layers and complexities and nuances of beauty, especially now. I'm a Black woman through and through, very proud to be a Black woman. And I think as Black women, we are the tastemakers of beauty. We have been at the forefront of this from the beginning. And so a lot of what the world sees is kind of what Black women have been doing and have always done in terms of, if you want to talk trends or anything, a lot of it stems from Black culture. And that's important to me. So in my work as a beauty editor, I really tried to create a platform that pushes and propels our story forward, because for so long we were excluded from the narrative of what beauty is and what beauty means. And now we're not standing for that anymore. Thankfully, we've progressed so much within the past few years, but growing up, I never saw myself in magazines. I never saw Black women with curves and with my hair texture who looked like me outside of the Essence and the Ebony and the Jet magazines that me and my mom would read together. And I'm so thankful that I did, being from Oregon, as it's one of the whitest states in America. I really needed that, those images at a young age, but I still felt a void. And so that is what has pushed me to continue to make sure beauty is from a perspective that feels authentic and true to everyone.
So who controls the narrative of beauty? Who is the one that controls that?
Well, now no one does anymore. Thank God. I think that it's unfair to make anyone control what we can say beauty is and isn't, because we are all special beings. Like you, me, women, men, we all have our own outlook on what is beauty, and we all have our own callings, and it's up to us to nurture that and to let that evolve and to spread that beauty into the world and inject the world with our uniqueness. So no one controls it. And we shouldn't let anyone control it, because that is how a lot of stereotypes continue to get just thrown around. It's how insecurities sort of are deeply rooted within us because of comparison. So no good thing can come out of thinking anyone controls what beauty is. You just have to look inwards and look at yourself and try to figure out what you want your story to be within that world.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. So when you were growing up, you said Oregon, obviously a state that not a heavy black population, so maybe not a lot of examples on TV and in print that, you know, are black, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how did that affect your psyche?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
growing up.
I mean,
were you like insecure at all, or was it just
right?
Like, did you feel like hey, I want to be white, for lack of better words?
No.
Not necessarily white, but you know, like I'm gonna get a perm. I'm gonna do,
right.
You know, those type of things.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you know, we are just days after the tragedy of George Floyd and the Amy Coopers and all of just the racial injustices that have been exploited in such a devastating manner. And growing up, I was subjected to the subtleties of Amy Cooper's every single day of being the only one. I was always the only Black girl in my advanced placement classes, in my ballet classes, in Girl Scouts. Like, I was just used to being the spokesperson for women of color. I am so thankful for my village and my family. I have an incredible mom and sister, and they are the most phenomenal examples of Black women. My sister went to Spelman College, then she was a Fulbright scholar, and then she went to Harvard Law School, and now she's at one of the top firms in New York in the world. And my mom is this incredible woman who is just forever young and vibrant and is a nurse. So she's been on the front lines of COVID-19, and she's just so strong through and through. So I am very privileged and honored to have had those examples in my household of strong Black women, and they shaped me into who I am today. So I'm so blessed when it comes to that. However, you know, your household doesn't control everything around you, as we know. So, I mean, at school, it was instantly isolating. But because of that, I always wanted to be a journalist and a writer. So I joined my school's high school newspaper, and I founded my high school's first ever Black student union as the president. I've always kind of been this Black Panther at heart, even in Oregon. It's just something that has been in my heart since I was a little girl. And so, but once again, I saw them and they had straight hair. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what's appropriate. That's what's popular. So I wanted to straighten my hair, and I straightened my hair all throughout high school. I was exposed to a lot of... What about skin tone? You know, I've always loved my skin tone. I've never had those internal sort of defeating thoughts about my skin tone, thankfully, but I know that is a very real and prevalent issue. Colorism is real within the African American community, and I think that thankfully now, with more images in the media that are inclusive to everyone, and with campaign imagery and with beautiful Black supermodels like Naomi Campbell, who led the way, to now new up-and-coming supermodels like Adut Akesh, who has this beautiful blue-black skin tone and looks incredible. And then the model that was discovered at Howard's homecoming 2 years ago, and she has a beautiful dark skin tone, and her career catapulted because of that. So thankfully, though, we have those examples. That's not something personally I've been impacted by, but it's something that I'm very, very aware of in my career and write about a lot. But yeah, so growing up, I was always exposed to sort of covert racism. So the subtleties of, oh, you sound white, or you talk white, just because I use diction or pronounce my words certain ways. It was a lot of that, and just sort of being unicornized, like just being, oh, you're smart and you're Black. Wow, people like that exist. Like, it was very much so an interesting experience, because that's not the way the world was. But I think it was so. That's why it was so important for me to go to Howard and to be immersed in this sea of Black excellence, because it allowed me to swim in both of those seas. It allowed me to expand upon my Blackness and to continue to educate myself. Even though I've always been so Black and so proud, I've never been able to be around so many Black and excellent people of different racial backgrounds of our African descent before. So that was very critical to my young womanhood, for sure.
Maybe you don't say, okay, wear this, right? Or dress like this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the flip side, Khloe Kardashian, okay? She come with...
I've interviewed before. She's very kind.
She come with braids, and what type of hairstyle does she have? Do you think that it's a line where, okay, I'm not going to tell you how to dress, but I can tell you what not to do, because maybe that might be...
Guess what? I wrote about that when she wore Bantu knots and when she wore her Derrick Bow braids. I wrote about that when I was at Cosmopolitan.
Tell me about that, please.
So cultural appropriation, there's so many...
What can you just say what that is first?
Absolutely. It's when someone is taking a style and wearing a style that is deeply rooted in another culture's heritage, and not giving credit to that style, and blatantly saying it's something that it's not, and not giving any acknowledgement.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
That's cultural appropriating, which there's also levels to that. But I think it's still alive and well, and it's a problem, and it happens. But I think Black women are way more vocal about it now, and there are a lot more Black editors who were calling that out. Like when that happens, I write about that. And guess what? Their managers and their publicists and everyone, since I'm at these major magazines, I was at Cosmo, I was at Birdie, I'm at Marie Claire. They don't want that press, so they're correcting their actions when we are calling them.
That's right. You better be the gatekeeper for the culture. I appreciate that. Because you know what?
But Black women, we are the tastemakers. We're the trendsetters.
I like that.
And so I feel like, yes, it's a form of flattery, but it also can be incredibly insulting when we don't get credit for it.
Absolutely.
And like that. So it's that's like another very extreme side of the beauty industry. But there's a lot of ways that we are unlearning those habits and creating a newer landscape that is inclusive to everyone, race, gender, everything.
Where does this confidence of yours come from? I see a Black girl that's from Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
She travels 3,000 miles to go to Howard.
Yeah.
You dark skin, natural hair, and you're an editor at a magazine that's it ain't Essence. You know what I'm saying? It's not Jet. Where does that confidence come from?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I think that It comes from one just
Like I'm looking at your collars. I see your shirt. I just see confidence all through you. Where's all of that coming from?
well, confidence is something that I think that you have to nurture and you have to learn. And beauty to me is a tool of empowerment, like beyond just playing with makeup or lipstick. I've always approached it from a very cultural context. And I think that my health and my wellness and who I surround myself with and what I read and spend time doing all cultivates like my being and who I am and all of my experiences as well. But I think there is also important to have very humbleness, and I'm very nimble and hardworking. And I've been in the industry for 8 years. I'm so grateful to be at Marie Claire. It's a dream. I'm grateful to have gone to Howard. It was the best decision of my life. And I'm just grateful for my village and my loved ones. So I feel like a cocktail of all of that is kind of what makes me me.
Wow. So Maya, what made you go to Howard?
I was a part of a very, very incredible organization in Oregon called Self-Enhancement Incorporated, and it's for people of color, and it's just such a community of us. And my dad was one of the founders of Self-Enhancement, and he's such a leader in the Oregon community, and he's incredible. So he started this organization, and they took us on a college tour, and a Black college tour, and we just traveled to like the South. We traveled to the East Coast, and we went to all these schools. And I'll never forget like stepping onto Howard's campus. There was just like this overwhelming energy of excellence, and it wasn't necessarily how do I describe it? Everyone just seemed so smart and like they just had their shit together, point blank. And it was huge in journalism, and communications was like such a great department at Howard. And I loved that it was right next to New York City, and I wanted to be a magazine editor my entire life. And I knew that New York City was like the capital of fashion magazines, and I was like, I just already knew it was the perfect place physically for me to be, right next to New York, and the energy just felt like it was for me. It was like, Howard kind of has, like, it's a huge school, and it kind of has that big city vibe. Would you agree? Like, they're not babying you, like, you're there, and you're like, and you have the power to make up your own experience. And it was between Howard and Spelman for me. And I also got into NYU and a lot of other Ivy League schools. But one, I just like knew I wanted to be around Blackness, and I just wanted that for myself.
So what was Howard like? I mean, what year is this that you come into Howard?
So that was 2011, 2012.
2011, wow.
I graduated in 2015. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked what my experience was like?
Yeah, no, what was it like? You know, what was the scene? I know you said your parents dropped you off, but, you know, maybe if you could paint a picture, what was it like?
Yeah.
You know, finally getting there. What was the energy?
Oh, my gosh.
Of Howard like?
I had sort of a, like, love-hate. Like, Howard my freshman year was tough because I have a naturally very cheery spirit, and everything about my demeanor, I'm like such a Portland girl through and through. Like Portland, you know, we're like natural, like hippies and positive and happy. And I remember going around on like my first week being like, hi, I'm Maya. And everyone's like, who is this girl with this high-pitched voice introducing herself to us, who is just smiling all the time? And so I remember being like, no one's friendly here. It's like so cliquey, and even in the cast, like I can't even just go sit by anyone. And I would call my sister so much and just cry to her about how I like couldn't make any real friends.
Wow, really?
It was like my first 2 months. So I was like a dramatic 18 or 19-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like I had been the high school cheerleader. I was just like the it girl in my school in Oregon. So I come here and I'm like expecting to just make friends immediately and feel so welcomed. And Howard has a very East Coast vibe and I'm very West Coast. And so it was just different for me. And it was tough for me. And I remember my classes and my orientations being huge. And I was like, my teacher isn't even going to know my name. And I was just used to kind of like being that straight A student. And so I was like, okay. So then I had a reality check. I was like, Howard is going to help me grow. It's going to be a place that is going to challenge me and it's not going to be easy. And I just put myself out there. It's like sink or swim, right? Like Howard's a huge school. There's so many students. There are people in my graduating class I don't even know, you know, or hadn't even seen before. So I remember just being like, I'm just going to be myself, authentically myself, through and through, my quirky self, if you bang with me or not. And I just like made so many friends and met like my best friends in the entire world who are still my best friends to this day. I knew that I wanted a sisterhood and I wanted that sense of community at Howard. And that was something I also pursued starting like my second semester freshman year. So becoming an Alpha Chapter Delta 100 years after it was founded in 1913 was like the biggest honor ever. I'll never forget the energy of my probate. I'll never forget my line sisters and in that moment and us just feeling like we'd made it.
Man, what was that like? Because I would imagine that how many was on your line?
50.
Well, and can it be no more than 50? Is that the thing?
That was like the cap.
Yeah. So I would imagine that trying to make line was probably pretty tough, or some anxiety there. You know what I mean?
I mean, of course, we know.
Was it are your parents Greek at all?
Mm-mm. I was really inspired by my sister, Ada Kappa Chapter. She was the pearl of her line, and I went to her probate in high school and was like, wow. I went to Atlanta, and that was awesome.
So what? She was 22. That means because it's 22 founders for Delta, right?
Yeah, and she was number 20.
She was 22. So they probably took her through the ringer. So now you come on. What number were you online?
I'm number 37. Shout out to the 37s.
So let's back up a little bit. So you want to be a Delta. At what point is this in your Howard career that you want to be a Delta? I mean, I'm sure you probably wanted to be a Delta as soon as you saw your sister come out.
I stepped on campus wanting to be a Delta. I wanted to be a Delta in high school. I was so sus. I like had pictures in the middle of like a mid, like with Spelman Deltas, like smiling. I mean, I didn't know, like they would just come out. They didn't know that was inappropriate at the time. But yeah, I was so inspired. Kanice is 37, which is like divine that I'm number 37 because that's my sister's line. They are the most phenomenal women and they were big sisters to me and just so smart and popping. And I was like, wow.
So who are you confiding in when you like, okay, I got to figure out how to be in this organization? Who are the people that are in that circle of trust?
My now line sisters.
Okay.
We all made it.
did you tell your sister? Did she know?
Yeah, she knew.
So was she kind of helping you navigate that world?
No, she did not want to help me. She was like, you got to do it on your own. You know, like she like kind of hates me. You know what I'm saying? No, she didn't hate me, but she like gave me that tough love. Like she was not going to give me any hand holding, no insider information. Wow. It was like all my own doing. But Ada Kappa and Alpha Chapter, we have a very close relationship. So, you know, my prophytes, tenacious, they are just phenomenal women. And I had read about Delta. I had done my research. Service was something that was very important to me from a young girl. So I was already so aligned with the mission of Delta Sigma Theta and knew that it's what I wanted to do. And so it was like one of the biggest blessings for me coming out of Howard is, oh my gosh.
How did that, you know, when you made it, or made line? How did that affect your confidence?
Well, I don't know if confidence is the word. I would say that it just made everything it made the experience so much more rich, like the Howard experience for me, because I had sisters to lean on, and we all like were about excellence, but we were about having fun. We were about service. We did everything together. We put on the most phenomenal programs together. We had the funnest parties. We stayed up late studying all night after the parties and like still got 4.0s while online. Like we were just Delta's embodied like a 360 woman through and through. And so I think it just made me so
I
much.
know I hear so many stories of people like saying, man, I was so like pledging was so hard. It was so tough. It took up so much time, but that's when I got the highest GPA.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to what the priorities are. You know what I'm saying? Like educating ourselves, learning how to be disciplined, and learning how to not make any excuses. You can go to a party, but you can't study for your final. You can do both. You know, how like Delta and Howard in general teaches you can do both, right? It was just the vibe there. We all had so much fun. I'm so happy to be a part of Old Howard, not New Howard. We had so much fun. We turned up, but we also like were so smart and knew how to speak eloquently and be leaders and get huge summer internships and get amazing job offers. So it was just like an amazing experience. I'm so proud to have gone to Howard.
So when you get to Howard, obviously, you know, you're far away from home. But
Right.
one of the things I hear you say is that this was, you know, not your first interaction with Black people, but maybe the first time where you were exposed to like that Black excellence on that level.
Yeah.
Because you were in a lot of classes. Were you the only Black person?
Yeah.
You know, probably like you said, Girl Scouts, all of that.
Right.
What like was that intimidating at all?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. It was so like empowering to me because I think going to a Black school in general, it just puts you on an equal playing field, right? Like with people who look like you. And so there's a
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's like a familial aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's this family aspect that is just makes your school pride through the roof. Like we all have that. And then there's also like just being around other people who look like you, who you can learn from. And so like my best friend in the entire world, Kiara Felton, we were on Wheatley 4th, and we met freshman year, and she was from Philly, and she was like a Philly girl through and through, and she was like, she just taught me so much, you know, and I was like a bit naive in a good way, but you're from Portland, Oregon. Portland is a very Pleasantville of a town, you know, it can be a bit cradling. So I remember just like being so happy to be around all these people that really poured into me, and just like having this friendly competition because we all had this vibe about us, even with our Howard introductions. It's something I take into interviews with me now, and it's something that carries with me now, just having this confidence to introduce yourself and read the room and just like talk in front of crowds and you know, hold their attention, and all of those things are what I learned from my Howard experience.
You know, times where maybe, okay, you got Howard figured out, but there's still maybe some void or something that happened.
You know, Howard is a tough place in a sense that like you really have to vouch for yourself. I mean, we all know the A building. We know like nothing is easy at Howard. Nothing was ever easy.
You're right, because every organization has a process too.
Yeah.
You know, you got to pledge everything, no matter what.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Exactly. Like everything was hard. So I think just the day-to-day of maneuvering that was definitely challenging For sure. And I'm someone who, like, I was such a stickler about my grades. Like, I graduated summa cum laude. I, like, was on scholarship. I was, like, such a little geek, but still, like, definitely a party girl for sure. But so those two worlds, like, balancing that as well as balancing my chapter responsibilities. I was woman to woman chair, which is one of the biggest programs Delta put on for 22 years. For 22 years, I was the 22nd annual chair that had been appointed by my pro-fights. So I put on this huge conference, and we brought in like 500 young girls from the DC metropolitan area. I had Megan Good as my conference speaker.
Wow. Is Megan Good? Is she a Delta?
No, she's not. She's not, but her story was so beautiful, and she talked a lot about, like, her journey through womanhood. And my pro-fight Ashley helped me secure her because she works in entertainment. And then we had so many educational programs in that conference. So that was a year-long planning process. So I was doing that on top of my grades, on top of everything else. So I think it just is how I'm able to, like, try to attempt to do it all now. And my adulthood is having the training ground that Howard was for me to get it all done and, like, make it look like it's easy. I think it's so, as Black people in general, we're really good at making everything look easy, but Howard really taught me that.
How can it be that we're on one end, Black people are viewed as, scum of the earth, but then on the other end, their culture is so amazing. I don't expect you to have an answer for it, but what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. I think that it's so, I can't make it make sense, right? I can't make it make sense that they don't love us like they love Black culture, or they're with us when they want to adopt our trends and co-opt our slang. But when it comes to anything in regarding our pain, they're completely silent. And so it's very, 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 very insulting. And I think that as Black people, we just have to continue to challenge them to have these uncomfortable conversations and to not be silent and to speak up. So that's what I'm charging myself to do, whether it be in the workplace, professionally, with these devastating, truly heartbreaking times that have been really weighing heavily on me. I haven't been sleeping that well. I've just been waking up thinking about it so much because it's a fear. It's an underlying fear, for my dad and, like, my Black friends and, everyone around me who I love, and the fear for our lives just because of the color of our skin, yet they want to adopt our trends. It doesn't make sense. Mm. And it's something that I call out as often as I can. It's something that I educate my white peers on. It's a lot of the conversations I've been having right now.
You graduate Howard, right? Was this 2015?
Yep.
You graduate Howard. Grades are popping. The experience at Howard is dope.
Yes.
You're a Delta. Any other organizations you're a part of?
Yeah, shout out to NABJ, the Howard chapter of National Association of Black Journalists. Incredible. That's actually how I got my first ever huge fashion magazine internship, was through a tour of magazines that Howard's chapter put on for us freshman year of college, which was so incredible. We traveled to New York. It was my first time ever in New York City with Howard. Howard has just given me so much. I'm so grateful. With Howard, and we went to, like, major magazines, and we met with a lot of editors like myself who I wanted to be one day. And that's how I got my first foot in the door. So yeah, it was like, I think I forgot, what was the question?
No, I was just saying, what other organizations were you involved in?
Yeah, I was in that organization. I was in Entertainment Power Players for, like, my freshman and sophomore year, which was cool. They had a lot of talks with really amazing people in the entertainment industry and in the media industry. I was just like a quad girl through and through. I know our dorms aren't like
a quad girl through and through.
I don't know. Our dorms aren't technically orgs, but it felt like that, of course.
Oh yeah, of course, because the quad didn't have like AC. At least when I was there, it didn't have AC.
No, we
didn't have a cafeteria. No. It was old. Stuff was breaking down. If it was either hot when they turned the heat on, that meant it was 150 degrees. It didn't mean like 75 degrees. It was only like hot or nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that because I was in Drew. So.
Oh, see, exactly. Did you step?
No, that wasn't a thing when I was at Drew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that didn't really come until I think, recently, because when I look on Instagram, I'm like, damn, they got a step. They had like a Drew versus like the quad. I'm like, damn, right. They was dope.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then
I didn't step either, but I would always go to the step shows and the step offs, and it was so fun.
Yeah, that's so dope. I mean, just think when you get to campus, everybody like, Drew, huh?
Yes.
Quad, and then it's like, it gets with the quad, it's like within these dorms, it's like levels. It's like first floor, third floor. Then it's like you go to quad, then you like Fraser. Then it's like even gets even more. It's like Fraser, fourth floor. Like it's like
that's why you heard me like we see fourth. I'm not my best friend, and that's why it was my like innate response to be like, and I was a quad girl because like that wasn't a real org, but it felt like it because of our camaraderie.
Yeah, crazy.
So those are the biggest orgs that I was involved in.
I do want to ask you though, before we transition to your career, what was the beauty scene like? I know you say you always wanted to be an editor. Was it like where you just wanted to be an editor of what? Like, what were you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really, really wanted more Blackness in high fashion, and I felt a void. I just felt incredibly excluded from the narrative, and I felt no stories were told about any woman that looked like me or my mom or my sister or anyone. And so I was so in love with magazines. I had stacks on stacks of journals and magazines.
So this started early.
Yeah, my mom always says you were like a natural born writer and you love magazines. And
so can you describe to me the beauty scene at Howard? Because I would imagine that as an editor,
Howard was popping.
I would imagine as an editor, you have thoughts that probably just race through your head based on when you're a little girl, you're reading, you're writing, you're collecting magazines, and now it's like you get to match up the data with your experience. You know what I mean? What is that like being at Howard? I know you probably have some crazy thoughts going through your head, and I know we say beauty doesn't. It's on the inside, but I know you had to be like, yo.
There's obviously external elements of beauty, but beauty at Howard, I mean, it was so inspiring. We would do each other's hair in our dorm rooms. My best friend was practically my hairstylist. I would call on her for all of my curls before Bison Ball or before my, big event. Or I had another friend down the hall who would do my eyelashes. Like, we were a community, and I think that just is Black women in general. That's the way we use beauty.
What about the styles at Howard, like the clothing styles? Remember, people from the East Coast would dress a certain way. People in D.C. would dress a certain way. What was it like experiencing that for the first time? That was mind-blowing for me.
Oh, I will never forget walking across the yard for like the first few times and feeling like I had to look dressed to the nines. Like, it was a fashion show every single day. And that was new for me because Oregon back then, it's become like a cooler place to be now. But back then it was like not the most fashionable city. And so I was like, wow. I mean, I've always had a natural knack for fashion. So it wasn't hard for me to adapt and kind of have that swagger. But I remember being like, okay, my hair has to be done for class. I have to have on an outfit, and like just seeing the different worlds of people who were like from New York and their swagger, and people from California, and then people from like Houston and Atlanta, and I was just mind blown and so inspired, honestly. But there was just a pressure that you needed to put on. You needed to dress up. And it was like this persona we had as being Howard girls.
So when you graduate from Howard, what are you doing at graduation? What's the career move?
So get this, 2 weeks before graduation, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea. All of my School of Beeline sisters and friends had these like huge offers waiting for them months, ago. But School of C, like with magazines, it's you're at the right place, right time, the luck of the draw, no matter if you have experience or not. And everyone assumed that I would have this incredible job right off the gate.
So you saying when you graduated Howard, you didn't just walk in to be an editor and editor-in-chief of the biggest fashion magazines ever?
No, I interned again, which my parents weren't the happiest about, but it's a part of my testimony. Mm-hmm. So what I was saying is I got a call from InStyle magazine asking if I wanted to intern again. And shout out to my mentor, Kalana Barfield. She's also a Howard alum, also an Alpha Chapter Delta, and is literally like one of my biggest blessings ever, and just has guided my entire career. She was the beauty director and editor at large at InStyle. So she helped me get an internship there after college. And everyone was like, you have all these esteemed internships on your resume already. You're interning again? Like you don't have a job? Wow. But that's not how magazines work. They don't just have job openings that are like set for you. You have to literally have the relationships, have the contacts, and be at the right place at the right time. So there was no job ready and open for me after graduation. So I came to New York City. I slept in my line sister roommate now, Jasmine's spare room in her apartment in Harlem, and on an air mattress, like ate ramen, definitely was broke, super broke.
Wow.
Interning in a beauty closet for 7 months before I got a real job. And during that time, though, from all of my past career experience with interning, I had made a lot of friends because you just have to be kind to everyone. And we're all.
How did that feel, though, to not have a job coming out? I mean,
it was hard.
You was killing it.
I know. It was so hard because, everyone asks you senior year, what are you going to do? And that's the main question. Like, everyone's like, what are you going to do? Where are you going to work? So one, I was being inundated with that question and I had no idea. So I was constantly reminded that I didn't have a job. And secondly, I've always been a very hardworking person, but I really swallowed everything and just was like, I'm just going to keep my head down and keep interning, which I think a lot of young girls kind of miss in the industry now because they see my Instagram and they see my world and they think, oh, you're just flying to Paris with Dior and you're flying to Switzerland with La Prix, and I am, and I'm so grateful.
Wait, let's talk about that. Wait, say that again. That was a stunt. That was a stunt. I like that.
This was something that people need to realize is that I worked really, really hard before I was able to do these things. You know what I'm saying? And so I interned again after having a degree and after having these amazing grades and all these accolades under my belt and on my resume. And then Cosmopolitan recruited me and I met with the editor-in-chief and the executive editor, and I went through like 5 rounds of interviews, and that's when I got my first assistant job.
Wow.
At a magazine. So that was kind of like how everything started for me.
So what's the pay like at that point?
Not good.
Talk about that. What is the pay like, and where are you living?
Anyone going into magazines aren't going into it for solely financial gains, which was not my intention, and it still isn't my intention. So I was living in Brooklyn at that point and had gotten a place and a roommate and I was an assistant, and it was a very hard job, but an amazing job, but a hard job.
Man.
I was a fashion and beauty assistant at cosmopolitan.com, working for 2 directors, and it was basically 2 jobs in one, but it like gave me the strongest backbone ever, and a lot of, you know, character building moments, I'll put it that way, that just really added to my testimony and made me who I am today. And my boss from Cosmo is like family to me now. So we're very, very close. And I got to do really huge photo shoots and work with a lot of celebrities and as an assistant. And I was afforded those opportunities because I worked really hard and they gave me more things on my plate and sort of let me spread my wings and do what I wanted to do. So I did that for a year and a half before going on to other places.
Wow, a year and a half. So I know that it had to be kind of validating to finally get put on after struggling. So at this point, are you is your mindset, are you like, I need to build my contacts because I can't,
When I was an assistant?
Yeah, like, are you building contacts? Are you getting a mentor? Like, what's going through your mind?
Well, I wasn't even really that much so in the position to build contacts yet, because I was sort of the old wave of assistants before you felt entitled. So I was like a real assistant, like doing assistant work, but I also was writing a lot. And so a lot of people were reading my work. I started their first ever natural hair video series that got over 1 million views.
Really? And this was your idea?
Yeah, Cosmo had never done. This was when video was starting to become a priority for digital online and was very new for everyone. And I was like, we should do braiding tutorials, you know? And so I remember reaching out to this stylist in Brooklyn, Magic Finger Studio, Stasha, who's still there and she's thriving. And I remember bringing her in, creatively directing the entire set, picking all the models, some who were my friends. I was some of the models, just really like making it very Black. And,
did you realize at the time like how big that was when you were going through that process?
Not at the time.
Wow.
And then the recognition was incredible. And now it's still a series. It's like such a legacy because they still do it.
Wow, so they're still doing that to this day.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Man, that's crazy.
And it's incredible. So that was really, really rewarding to do as an assistant. I was a beauty and fashion assistant. Those are 2 massive markets. I was like there until like, I don't know, very late hours of the night, packing up photo shoots, cleaning the closet, while writing 3 to 5 stories a day, while assisting, doing admin work, while like doing photo shoots and going to events. And so
coming out of Howard, did you feel prepared for this?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Because of everything I balanced while in Howard and everything I did, and I knew I wanted it, and it was like my dream job. It was like my first big girl job in beauty, and it was at the biggest women's magazine in the world. You know, Cosmo was the biggest digital women's magazine. We had like millions of readers every single month. And so it was like a dream. It was very challenging though, you know, very, very hard. But I say that to say it was like such a important part of my story, and I'm still very close with a lot of people who I worked with there.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. So after a year and a half, you decide to leave. Did you get courted by someone else, or are you looking for opportunities now?
I wasn't looking. I was actually about to get promoted. But Birdie Beauty, which is a very cool online digital destination for just savvy women who love beauty, very high fashion take on beauty, elevated beauty. And it was just cool. It was like a very new school way of writing and working. And it felt sort of like a startup. And it was owned by a smaller media company. And it was just like the cool, they were in every fashion show. If you were like a true beauty enthusiast, you know about Marie Beauty. And so I went on to be the assistant beauty editor there.
Wow.
And I worked with a team of 7 women, and they were so special, like the most amazing women who I still am very close with today.
When you're working in the beauty industry now, and I hear you saying that, you know, you want to do these things for women and for Black people. How much influence do men have in this beauty industry that you're in? And how do you feel about men having influence on what defines beauty for women?
I don't think men should have influence on what defines beauty for women, but that's because I'm a feminist for sure. I think we respect and love Black men so much. I've just always been focused on women's magazines, so I haven't gotten a chance to write for grooming or men yet. I'm open to it. Maybe that's something that I'll do in my future for sure. I mean, my dad is super spoiled. Like, you know, every man around me is definitely spoiled with good skincare and products that I give to them. But I think that I've had a laser focus on women in different areas of my life. Like when I was at Cosmo, that's a younger audience, right? I was fresh out of college. It was like perfect for me to be there at that age. And then at Birdie, it was like this cool girl fashion beauty brand, perfect for me to be there. And at Marie Claire, we're all about like women who are very educated and purpose and has style, and she's like into her career, and she's at my like age right now. So I think it's been cool to do that. But I mean, I've interviewed men. Like I interviewed Michael B. Jordan when he was the face of Coach, and I wrote about that, and that was one of my favorite interviews ever. So I've definitely like wrote about Black men in the beauty space. We talked a lot.
In your world, in your roles that you've had, you've never had to maybe work with a man on a project.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Other than like when I work with men, like when I lead up a video series, and a lot of like men are in our video department. So I work with them in that sense, but they've never like been my boss or anything.
But they've never been like saying, hey, that's not beauty, you know, change that or edit that, you know. No. Okay. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have that, huh?
There's a lot of white men in the beauty industry who are like CEOs trying to figure out how to talk to women, which is interesting.
How did that happen though? Like, how are men running?
Because there's so much money in the beauty industry.
But even still, like, how do they get the authority to have an opinion that people respect? You know what I mean?
That's a really good question.
And what exfoliator should I get?
What do you use?
I just use soap and water. I don't use anything.
Oh my gosh, you got to get a cleanser. I would say for men, a good start is Kiehl's. You should try Kiehl's.
Kiehl's? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure your sister-in-law or your Earth would know about that.
I'll ask. So now when you go to Marie Claire,
yeah.
Are you editor at that point, or did you have to work your way up?
I'm beauty editor, so.
So now this is considered like a big role, or?
Yeah, for sure.
So this is a big deal, because just a few years ago you were cleaning closets, right?
Yeah.
You were cleaning closets, so now this is a big deal. I mean, when you get that call, did they recruit you as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does it feel like to be recruited and not having to go interview places?
Special. Well, you still interview, but they, give you a call to interview. It feels amazing. I feel like I haven't scratched the surface yet of my career. I'm still very much so in the beginning, even though I've been in the industry for 8 years now. It just feels like, 9 years actually, but beauty for 8. It feels like, wow, okay, like I must be doing something right, if all these people and important people are noticing my work. So I've absolutely loved it at Marie Claire. I have such an incredible team. I work with all women and they're so smart and sharp, and they support all of my ideas and everything that I want to do. And I work I'm mainly on digital, but I also contribute to print. So I get to do both, which is a big challenge, but I've always loved print magazines, but it's a very different process to simultaneously do both. And I also do a lot of video for us. And so I'm kind of getting to do a lot of different things at once. And so it's really been nice.
So what's like the, what are your main responsibilities as editor?
I write a lot. I interview a lot. I edit other people's writing, like junior writers on the staff. So I'm producing a lot of features every single day. I'm working a lot with our sales and marketing team to secure big beauty deals, whether that be with our big partners, which keeps the magazine alive, of course, advertisers. So I work with that a lot. I interview, people in the industry and tell their stories, which is my favorite part of my job.
Nice. So what are some cool interviews or opportunities that you've had as a result of being the editor?
It's so hard to pick my favorite interview because I love them all for very different reasons. So this weekend, for instance, this past week I interviewed Naomi Campbell.
Wow.
Iconic. I mean, it's Naomi. She's beyond just celebrity status. She's like best friends with Nelson Mandela. You know what I'm saying? So to talk to her, our interview was only supposed to be 10 minutes. It turned into 30, which is like so gracious of her to give her time. But I think there's an art of interviewing, and then there's just the way you talk to someone that, captures and captivates them. So it was an incredible interview. She was incredible. I loved interviewing Tracy Ellis Ross. She was phenomenal and so sweet and kind. We also had a long conversation. Our interview was like 45 minutes long, and she was just like, felt so sisterly. And I loved Gabrielle Union, Zoe Kravitz. She was so smart. Michael B. Jordan. That was a fun interview. These were all like in person, except for Naomi, obviously, because of COVID. I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of also like non-Black people and non-Black supermodels and celebrities. But
so are these all people that you have in your Rolodex?
Yeah.
That's
that I've written stories about in interviews. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that you have access to these people? You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty crazy. It's a blessing. It's something that I don't take for granted because these were dreams that I had when I was a little girl. Because when I'm interviewing them, I'm not just being like, what beauty products do you use? I'm like asking them real questions and humanizing them and telling their stories in a very impactful way.
So, what does it feel like to, on one instance, like you're at the bottom, you're an intern.
Yeah.
And now, and I don't want to say a short amount of time because obviously you've been in this since you were a little girl, but from internship to now, a lot of these celebrities, it's in their best interest to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like they can't just be like, I don't want to talk to her. You know what I'm saying? They got to kind of, if they want to stay relevant, like you said, when you talk to Khloe Kardashian, you talk to they got to kind of like
it was funny. It was all three sisters on the phone, Khloe, Kim, and Kourtney.
Man, that's
so it was like a conference call with the Kardashians.
Do you understand like the leverage that you have?
I do, and I'm grateful for this moment of you reminding me that, and it's something that I see as a superpower, and it's something that I take very seriously, and I remind myself every day of how fortunate and blessed I am to be this girl from this small town now in New York City at this, notable, incredible household name of a brand.
When we're looking at your reign as an editor of beauty for Marie Claire, what's your imprint?
I just want my editorial footprint. I want women to know that they were seen, heard, and represented. Like, as long as I do that, then I am fulfilled forever. Because it's not about me. It's not about the fancy perks of the job that we mentioned earlier. It's not about fangirling over anyone I'm talking to. Like, it's about making sure that we are like telling stories that I yearned for. when I was young that shaped my progression into young womanhood. Words are very powerful. We all consume so much. We don't really know how much that is being engraved in our subconscious. So I'm just trying to make sure that the images and anything that has my name attached to it and my byline is something that I'm proud of. So that's what I want my imprint to be.
Dope, man. So what advice do you have for the Maya Allen that's coming into Howard right now that wants to have a successful career at Howard, successful career after Howard?
That's such a good question. So the advice that I'd give to myself coming into Howard would be, advice I wish I would have known is just to have fun. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get the best grades and do this and do that. And it mattered, but I put it, the extent to which I made it matter was like not the healthiest fit. So I would say to just and really cherish the memories you have, because those are the people that are going to be in your wedding one day and, you know, your best friends of a lifetime. And so that's a two-parter, because I wanted myself to have fun, and I had a lot of fun. However, I really wanted to remind myself to cherish when you don't have to be an adult yet, and you don't have bills yet, and you guys aren't busy traveling around the world being adults with your jobs, and you're together every weekend. That's those are the most precious moments. And I was just so in the moment, so I didn't really savor it as much, and I still savor it now, and those are very sweet memories. But I would tell myself that. And then the advice I'd give myself after Howard when I graduate is just to have patience and continued faith, because your journey is yours, and just to trust the process.
Man, so if people want to follow your work or get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as Maya Alina. As Marie Claire, you can just type in my byline. You can see all of my work there. So I'm always available if anyone's looking for advice or collaboration.
How do you spell Lena?
Mayallenaa.
Oh, okay. Am I following?
Are you?
Mayallenaa?
Mayallenaa. Do you see me?
Oh, damn. Oh, yeah. Damn.
You see me?
Yo, your Instagram crazy.
No, it is not. I have a baby following.
Is there ever any pressure to kind of write about a story?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much pressure in my job. I feel pressure every day.
What about to be super black from outside?
No, I never feel pressure. I think that just comes innate for me. Yeah. I don't feel pressure with that, thankfully. I just feel pride. But, so much pressure. Oh, pressure to be on. I have to practice boundaries, because if not, I would have burnout and just go crazy.
What do you mean by be on?
To be on 24/7, especially post.
Like in Marie Claire mode, you mean?
That's a good one, yeah. Especially pre-COVID, I was in it traveling twice a month,
And these are legit trips. These not no day in and day out.
No, these are brand trips that are important. These are partners we work with who, and not everyone gets invited, so certain brands get invited, like Elle and Marie Claire and Vogue.
They love you. So how has COVID affected the beauty industry?
Oh, greatly. I mean, it's so different. Sales, if you say from a sales standpoint, people are buying people are buying a lot of skincare because everyone is tending to themselves and self-care and skincare. People are buying makeup still, but not as much as before. And people are buying a lot of like devices, like facial devices, beauty devices. In terms of content-wise, it's just so busy because everyone's online and consuming. So, I mean, if I thought my job was busier before, it's like so busy now. Like we've shifted everything to be at home content. We have celebrities producing their own videos for us. We've had to completely shift the direction in which we talk to our readers and consumers. It's kind of flipped the whole industry on its head, for sure.
The next one is rapid fire. So with rapid fire, you just have to give an answer. The first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay? So there are no long sentences. You got to give the answer. All right?
Okay.
U Street or Adams Morgan?
Adams Morgan.
I knew you were going to say that.
Why?
Because you're artsy. Is homecoming better as an alum or as a student?
Student, because I was there when Drake performed.
Yeah, I was there too.
Lit. But alum is lit too, because like my 5-year Delta, I can't really choose, honestly.
Okay. Lace fronts.
What?
You have to give me a response when I say these words. I said lace fronts. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Do you, boo?
Why gotta be do you, boo?
What
if your white colleagues started coming to work with lace fronts? Never mind. Next question. Best Howard moment.
My probate.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew it.
Shout out to Felicitas 50.
Kardashians. You got that look like I can't say what I want to say. But go ahead. Say what you want to say.
I would say I like Kim's new fragrance.
Dope, man. I think one of them got downgraded from being a billionaire. Not like that's a big deal.
Recent news,
I wish I could be downgraded from being a billionaire.
The only Black beauty billionaire we should be talking about is Pat McGrath. She's a real self-made beauty billionaire.
Man.
Did you know that?
No. I wish I would have known that.
But
I didn't know that. I thought you was going to say Madam C.J. Walker, but
No. Pat McGrath is the first self-made Black woman beauty billionaire.
Damn. Okay.
Incredible.
Now, I was going to ask you, speaking of the Kardashians, Black people been having big booties for years. And then Kim get a big booty now, it's a thing. Anyway.
Agreed.
Anyway, talk to your colleagues about that. We've been having big booties for years, getting ostracized. Now, all of a sudden, big booties are cool.
I agree.
Anyway, biggest failure.
I don't see things as failures.
Biggest learning lesson.
It would be to set professional and personal boundaries.
They be trying to infringe on you, huh? I know they do.
No, not true. A lot of it's my own doing.
Man, okay. Howard men don't cheat.
I never dated a Howard guy.
Never?
I had more house boyfriends.
Oh my gosh. You know what?
It was always when I came down to New York for summer internships, summer interns are popping.
I can't take you anymore. The last time you had a perm?
I've never had a perm. I've been natural my whole life.
Wow.
Thanks, Mom.
You got to cut one, you got to bench one, and you got to start one. Okay?
Okay.
Dorothy Dandridge, Beyonce, Josephine Baker. Start one, bench one, cut one.
Okay. That's hard.
Yeah, of course.
Starting would be, definitely benching Beyonce over Josephine Baker and Dorothy Dandridge. They're history makers.
So Beyonce's on the bench.
I love Beyonce though. She's not on the bench. I can't bench anyone.
Oh, come on. Take a stance. You got to start one, bench one, and you have to cut one. You actually have to cut one.
Give me a different grouping of women. Because this feels like women shaming. That's not what I stand for.
All right, you win. When's the first time you learned to say no?
Ooh, that's a good question. This year.
When did you realize that you were the shit?
I haven't even scratched the surface of being the shit.
Oh, man.
Soon come. I'll get back to you once I'm there.
Drew Hall or Carver?
Drew.
Start one, bench one, cut one.
I'm nervous.
Sex in the City, The Devil Wears Prada, Crazy Rich Asians.
Starting The Devil Wears Prada, because that's like my life, as to working in magazines when I first started as an assistant and when I was an intern. Cut one would be Crazy Rich Asians. I love Asian people. I think it's so amazing that they have this movie that speaks to them. But Sex in the City is just iconic. So they're open.
Got it. Well, Maya, you have been an amazing guest.
Thank you. Thank you
so much.
The invitation and for inviting me on. I am so honored. I am so proud to have gone to Howard. And thank you for doing this and taking the time. It means a lot.
No problem. It's so cool to talk to people like you that are really loving what they enjoy and excelling in their career.
Thank you.
And even more exciting for you to, be the person you are that went to Howard and you can tell a story. So I'm hoping that people can watch this and be inspired. So I know that Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.